Philippine Blocks Chinese Coast Guard as it maneuvers of the Second Thomas Shoal. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the latest updates on international affairs and geopolitical events that shape our world. And today, we have an exclusive report on a high-stakes confrontation in the South China Sea. In this gripping episode, we'll dive deep into the clash between the Philippine Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard as tensions rise near Ayungin Shoal. But before we get into the heart of the matter, South China Sea row affects Philippine interests and is not solely a U.S.-China. The South China Sea row is a multifaceted issue that impacts several countries in the region, including the Philippines. It's not merely a bilateral tiff between the U.S. and China, even though the two major powers play significant roles in the dispute. The Philippines has direct stakes and concerns in the South China Sea, and here are some reasons why. Territorial sovereignty. The Philippines claims parts of the South China Sea, specifically the Spratly Islands, based on historical, geographic, and legal grounds. This is articulated in the country's exclusive economic zone, EEZ, as established by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. Resource interests. The South China Sea is believed to contain vast reserves of oil and natural gas, as well as rich fishing grounds. The resources within the Philippines' EEZ could be essential for the country's energy security and the livelihood of many Filipinos. Economic interests. The South China Sea is a significant maritime route for international trade. Any conflict or tension in the area could disrupt the trade routes, affecting the economies of many nations, including the Philippines. A U.S. Navy aircraft hovered above as two Philippine boats navigated through a Chinese Coast Guard blockade in a perilous encounter on Tuesday in the contested South China Sea. Their objective was to deliver provisions to Filipino troops stationed at a disputed reef. During this intense face-off near Second Thomas Shoal, two accompanying Philippine Coast Guard ships were hindered by a minimum of 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels for roughly 5 hours. This recent escalation underscores the persistent territorial disagreements in the bustling maritime region, involving nations such as China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Brunei. This area is seen as a significant Asian tension point and is amplifying the strained relations between the U.S. and China. To understand the gravity of the situation, let's start with some context. Ayungin Shoal, also known as Second Thomas Shoal, is a disputed territory in the South China Sea. It's a submerged reef claimed by both the Philippines and China. Its strategic location makes it a focal point in the ongoing sovereignty disputes in the region. The Philippine Coast Guard allowed a select group of journalists, including 2 from the Associated Press, to accompany its vessels that protected the supply boats. This move was part of an initiative to shed light on China's escalating maneuvers in the South China Sea, an area Beijing largely claims as its own. A Chinese Coast Guard vessel approached within 46 meters, 50 yards, of the BRP Cabra, attempting to obstruct its path. To avert a potential collision, the Philippine ship acted swiftly, shared an officer aboard the Cabra, who chose to remain anonymous due to official protocols. The BRP Cabra, along with another Coast Guard vessel, the BRP Sindangan, found themselves encircled by 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships and an additional 4 vessels believed to belong to the militia. This blockade took place while 2 other Philippine boats transported supplies to Filipino troops stationed at Second Thomas Shoal, located over 7 kilometers, 4 miles, distant. Following the successful delivery of supplies and a new batch of Filipino sailors to the grounded Philippine Navy ship at the shoal, all Philippine vessels departed without any further complications. Strategically, control over Ayungin Shoal means control over valuable fishing grounds and potential access to vast undersea resources. It's a geopolitical chess piece that both nations are determined to hold on to. Years of diplomatic negotiations have yielded no resolution. The situation has escalated as both the Philippine Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard seek to assert their claims. In a show of unwavering determination, the Philippine Navy deployed its assets to defend its sovereignty. This included the resupply mission to the grounded BRP Sierra Madre, a dilapidated Philippine Navy ship intentionally grounded on Ayungin Shoal in 1999. Surrounded by Chinese vessels, the BRP Sierra Madre became a symbol of the Philippines' resolve. But the question remains. Ayungin Shoal isn't just a piece of land in dispute. It represents the broader struggle for control and influence in the South China Sea. This region is a vital artery of global trade, with billions of dollars worth of goods passing through its waters annually. It's also rich in fisheries and potentially abundant energy resources. Control over Ayungin Shoal could tip the balance of power and impact not only the Philippines and China, but also the entire region's stability and prosperity. The world is watching this unfolding drama closely. Several countries and international organizations have voiced their concerns over the situation. The United States, for instance, has expressed support for the Philippines and called for a peaceful resolution to the dispute. We're pleased the supply mission was accomplished despite the hazardous obstructions and activities, stated CM Dr. Emmanuel Dangate of the Cabra to AP. Commodore J. Tariella, the Coast Guard spokesperson, criticized the Chinese Coast Guard's blockade and its risky tactics, labeling them breaches of international norms designed to prevent marine collisions. He mentioned that the Coast Guard intends to submit a report to Manila's Department of Foreign Affairs, which might lead to a diplomatic grievance against China. The tensions began on Monday evening when a Chinese Coast Guard ship pursued the Philippine vessels. By Tuesday morning, radio communications were filled with both parties defending their territorial claims. A voice claiming to be from one of the Chinese Coast Guard ships admonished, "For the avoidance of any misunderstandings, depart and stay away or be prepared to face the full ramifications." Despite the warnings, the Philippine vessels remained steadfast. In response, the voice from the Chinese ship cautioned that due to their persistent violation and provocation, counteractions will be initiated. Chinese Coast Guard vessels frequently maneuvered close to the paths of the two Philippine Coast Guard ships, at times positioning themselves right ahead of the Cabra, which stayed in place. The Chinese ships also approached the wooden supply boats perilously close, but these smaller vessels were nimble enough to navigate through the shallower areas towards the shoal. The Chinese embassy in Manila did not provide an immediate response regarding the incident. The reason behind the U.S. Navy's decision to send a surveillance aircraft, which hovered for over 3 hours while Chinese ships trailed and blocked the Philippine vessels near 2nd Thomas Shoal, remains unclear. In relation to the Navy plane's deployment, U.S. Embassy spokesperson Kanishka Gangopadhyay in Manila stated that he couldn't divulge details. He emphasized, however, all our military operations in the Philippines are carried out in full collaboration with our Philippine partners. In previous instances, Filipino security authorities have acknowledged receiving intelligence data and aerial imagery from the disputed regions, courtesy of their American and other international allies, as part of ongoing security collaboration. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay informed about critical global developments. Thank you for joining us on. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay safe.